Paradoxically, the battle in Europe in LLM is harder than the US because
So you also base your budget allocation on the sales performance.
it might be, and there's some is political stuff too. I am on Instagram, if I am on Facebook, and I see an advertisement that it might be interesting for my company, I download it. I really do not care if I am with pyjama and not with a suit. Marketing is not just to translate, it's to breathe the culture. The CTA has to be different in a website because get your free copy now. For us is too aggressive. Claim your free copy.
Hello, welcome back to Odys podcast. My name is Aneta Samkov, and today my guest is Gaetano Romeo, who's the head of global digital marketing at EasyVista. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
So the topic for today is one budget, six markets, the SEO decisions nobody talks about. Can you give us the picture at EasyVista?
We are a new European ITSM company based in France, but we are worldwide. And I lead the digital marketing team.
So actually, how does the marketing in the general looks like for you today? Like what part is SEO, what percentage versus like paid and other options like social media?
Now is increasing because when I joined the company 2.5 years ago, it was a totally different situation. Actually, there was no SEO. So there was a natural SEO, just a brand. People were looking for EasyVista plus the name of the product, the name of the service. But, well, I don't want to exaggerate. The beginning was not more than 3, 4, 5%.
Oh, wow.
Right. Because everything was on Google Ads, newsletter, not so much content.
Okay.
We have changed everything.
Oh, wow.
In these 2.5 years, everything has changed.
So how much is it now? What were you able to?
20% more or less.
Oh, wow.
20%.
Big change. Yeah.
Big change. The topic is we are not satisfied. We want to reach at least in 1 year the 30%.
Oh, wow.
Not just because normally people say, when you reach a good level of SEO, it's time to save your budget for a Google Ads. We don't want to, because if your Google Ads is running well and you are a good return of an investment, why do we have to switch?
Yes.
It makes no sense.
You can have two sources of revenue.
Exactly.
Yes.
And as a SaaS company has to have in a pipeline at least the 30% coming from SEO. Because, for example, I give you an example.
Yes.
Google Ads. You know the cost per leads in Google Ads? How much is it the keyword, for example, in the US, ITSM?
And what is the cost for you?
$35, $30 per click. Try to imagine. And we have there, in that market, we have giants like ServiceNow. They have much more budget than, I don't know, the NATO. So it's very challenging, but I do like to get challenging.
So what markets are you running operations in currently?
Well, as I told you, more or less everywhere, but we are very focused in Europe, France, Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Germany.
Okay.
The DACH area in general. US and Canada, that we call internally NAM, North America.
Okay.
In the United States and Canada. We are not the strongest as a budget, but we have an amazing, strong marketing team. Okay. So I really do believe in our marketing team. And actually, we are getting the double of leads comparing with the last year.
Okay.
So we are growing.
Growing fast.
Yeah.
IT service management is one of the most competitive B2B SaaS categories there are. So many of the budgets are for marketing are higher than most companies have revenue.
Exactly.
So what does it actually look like to compete in that space organically?
Well, the secret is not to try, avoid to fight directly with these giants. Because if you want directly head up, there's no way, no chance. And this happens in SEO too. If you think to chase them with keywords like ITSM, what is ITSM? Well, maybe you can get a good rank, 5, 6, 7, but to reach, especially in the US, the top, and now you see how a SERP now is, with the zero-click marketing and so on, is quite impossible. So the first topic is to find a way how to paradoxically get the chance to be smaller and cheaper than them. So there are a lot of people searching for keywords like, I don't know, ServiceNow alternatives. ITSM cheaper than ServiceNow. And you have to be enough ready to get this chance. Because if you arrive and you are able to cut, to take this search intent, it's probably a sale. Because the intent is to buy. The intent is to switch from a very expensive ITSM to another that is cheaper, but very well performing.
Yes.
This is the main goal.
And
to be honest, to have a lot of Google Ads campaign, it helps. It helps a lot because we can see which are the best keywords in order to have a good pipeline.
I see.
Because the topic is always pipeline.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not to tell to my boss, we are first in the ranking with this keyword. And
nobody cares.
Exactly.
Yes.
This is the typical SEO mistakes. This was very typical. Then SEO, we are happy just to reach the top of Google, but if we reach the top and we don't get any results in terms of pipeline, who cares?
Yes. So you have to go after the high intent searches, but still not with lower volume than the giants.
Exactly. Exactly. Because if you try to compete with them, there's no chance.
Sure.
There's no
Without
chance.
expanding your budget.
And by using AI, for example, we use AirOps to produce content. This is an amazing tool. We are getting cited in LLM. And now it's very hard to tell you the revenue coming from LLM. It's very hard because, to track is not so easy. But what I see in general, leads coming from LLM are a little bit better than lead coming from classical search.
I heard that, especially for B2B companies,
Yes,
that LLM leads have higher
Conversion rate.
Yeah, conversion rate.
They have
yeah,
a higher
exactly.
conversion rate. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And I can confirm you.
Oh, very interesting. So when you arrived at your position, what are the first things that you fixed?
There was no SEO, any strategy. So we started to create SEO strategy, content strategy in 6 different languages. And my big idea, actually, you know what it was? To use Meta Facebook for B2B. And we are getting a lot of satisfaction leads with a very less CPC cost for acquisition than LinkedIn. We are still using LinkedIn, of course,
Yeah.
but we are getting a lot of good quality leads from Meta, from Facebook.
Yeah.
And quality leads as well.
Yeah, this is very undervalued market, right?
I do
Especially
confirm.
for B2B.
I do,
B2B, yeah.
I do confirm. And if you ask me, for what, since you joined EasyVista, are you much more proud? I will ask you for Facebook, not SEO,
yes.
but because it was really underrated, undervalued.
And why do you think that campaign on Facebook has been so successful?
Because I'm going to tell you a story, maybe we can have a little bit fun together. I think before to be manager, we are human beings. And when we are home, we are chilling and we are always with our phone. And if I am on Instagram, if I am on Facebook, and I see an advertisement that it might be interesting for my company, I download it. I really do not care if I am with pajama and not with a suit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And this was my idea, where everything has started. And that was a good idea.
Facebook, I mean, Meta has also very good audience targeting options, right?
Not so good.
Yeah?
Not so good as LinkedIn, to be honest.
Okay.
Because it's very hard to track ICP in general.
So since you're running so many campaigns on different media, including like social media, Facebook, but also doing SEO across different markets.
I can add you Adderall, Reddit. We are everywhere. We are everywhere. We are using all the inbound marketing channels.
Instagram.
Everywhere.
TikTok.
No, TikTok no, because, they said a border that we cannot pass. Our industry is a very serious industry.
Yes.
TikTok maybe is a little bit too much, but who knows?
But these markets are so different. For example, US is completely different from France, and there are different requirements, like different competitor set, like a different buyer behavior, different expectations. How do you actually build a strategy that works across all these markets that you're in charge of without watering down the content?
This is a very interesting question. First of all, let's split up Europe and the US, because US is another sport.
Yes.
I always like to tell you, we are playing another liga. It's another league. Europe, France is a very mature market. So if we stay in Europe, probably France is the most mature market in Europe, and EasyVista is very well known because it's France in France and the US. Now let's address the US. The topic is much more harder. Why? Because the problem is not just the number of competitors. The buyer personas are already mature. So if you provide them thin content, they will refuse it.
Mhm.
And they will print you like a not good brand, a not value brand.
Mhm.
So to respond to your question, to reply to your question, to provide different content. And this is the main topic is the difference between translation and localization.
Mhm.
Translation is just to translate word from English to other languages.
Mhm.
Localization is to bring the nuance, the culture, the background of people in that content. We provide different content for England and for the UK. Of course you
Really?
are,
Wow.
for sure.
So do you have separate teams running for each, or?
We have
Wow.
separate teams.
Mhm.
We have English native speaker in the US, in the UK.
Mhm, mhm.
We have Portuguese in Europe, Brazilian in Brazil. We have Germans in Germany. We
Mhm.
have Italians, Portuguese, Spanish, because marketing is not just to translate, it's to breathe the culture. If
Mhm.
you are not local and you're just able to speak the language, but you don't know the nuance, you won't provide the right content that people for real they expect.
Yes.
And I give you another example.
Mhm.
Staying in English, the difference between US, UK, but in general Europe as well. We as a European, let's say marketing and sales speaking, we are less aggressive. So the CTA has to be different in a
Yeah.
website because get your free copy now for us is too aggressive.
Mhm.
Come on, wait, I take my time. Then if I want, I will download the copy.
Mhm.
But don't be so aggressive. So claim your copy now. Claim your free copy.
Mhm.
It's different.
Mhm.
And we realized 8 months ago, if I'm not wrong, that we shouldn't split the American version to the British version. And we decided to create the British version of EasyVista. We have American and British
Oh wow.
because
Mm.
it was very important. You know what? I'm Italian, so I'm native speaker of a new Latin language. But since I joined EasyVista, I realized that Portuguese and the Portuguese or Brazilians, it's like another language.
Mhm.
You can't use Brazilian to translate a website for the Portuguese market in Europe. You can't, not at all. So the buyer
The
personas,
buyer. Mhm.
they are different from the European.
Mhm.
Because remember, get to the SEO again, the difference started when you start to do an keywords research.
Mhm.
And even if they speak the same language in England and the US, a CTO manager, they don't search in the same way.
Mhm.
They can use different keywords.
Yes.
But here, more or less, it's 80%, 90% the same language. But the mistake that I see in some competitors is they translate from English to Italian to Spanish.
Mhm. Mhm.
And even if the translation of the keyword is correct, but probably me as Italian, I won't search by using that search, that the keyword.
Okay, I see. Yes.
So you don't have to translate, but create a keyword research for each country. No language, but country.
So when you look at these different markets, do you see any differences in how SEO is currently performing differently for them? Do you see any pattern?
It depends on the nature of the market. Because you can create a keyword search, as I told before, and then you realized that, for example, ITSM in Portugal is searched by 200 people in a month, and the US by 70K. So the difference is the usage.
Okay. How do you actually allocate the budgets across these markets? How do you decide which one gets the priority, or do they all have equally allocated funds?
Well, I would lie if I would tell you we have the same budget for. It's not like this.
Yeah.
Of course, US and France, because the topic is always to push our pipeline. So those are the most important market for us. And then it depends sometimes on salespeople, how good they are. Okay. Because sometimes it can happen, you are getting a lot of leads, but if they don't convert, it's a wasted money. So the cooperation with the sales people has to be always very strong in a company. Has to be very strong, because if a marketing provide leads and they don't convert, we have a problem. We have to realize and understand why they are not converting, what is happening. The quality of leads is not good.
Yes.
They don't call them immediately. Both. So to conquer, to win the market, sales and marketing has to work very strong together. They have to work very strong together. Otherwise, it will be impossible.
So you also base your budget allocation on the sales performance?
It might be. And some is political stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was wondering. Yeah.
Some is political stuff, and but actually the most we are putting on Google Ads. Okay. The budget, Google Ads. I'm happy and satisfied because the most coming from search engine. I don't want to tell it's for free because it's never for free. Yeah. But at least we don't allocate budget, not only for link building and digital PR in general. But if I compare the budget we allocate for SEO with, for example, Google Ads, LinkedIn, you cannot compare. Wow! Yes, yes. There's no comparison. Crazy. Yeah. But AI overviews and generative search are really hitting your sector very much right now. And enterprise software is particularly affected, and the links are replaced, right? What has that done to your traffic, and how did you respond to that? Well, this is very important and interesting because it depends on the market. Oh, interesting. In the US, it's an advantage for us because we are not in the top, but we get clicks from AI overview. Okay. And I can give you... So that has been in your favor? Yeah, it's been our favor, but not in some country in Europe. You mentioned that in the US, AI mode replacing the links has worked in your favor, but you cannot say I want to both. Yeah, but has that worked for you in Europe as well? Paradoxically, a little bit less, because there's a lot of small provider in Europe
Okay.
that they are producing contents, a lot of contents.
Okay.
So paradoxically, the battle in Europe in LLM is harder than in US. Because in US we have much more giants, but not so much small competitors. And at the end of the day, when you produce a lot of content and at the end of the day you have a good trustness for Google, you get cited on LLM as well. Because it's much more democratic, the LLM, than the classical SEO.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So with such a multi-market approach, when do you actually decide to stop and remove that market, kill it? Was there ever such a decision that you had to take?
It never happened in EasyVista.
Okay.
Okay. But I can tell you some experience in some previous company.
Sure, yeah.
Normally it was just always political.
Really?
And related to salespeople. Because sometimes you realize that you are getting leads, quality leads, but they don't convert. And the problem is probably because you reach that market not in the right moment. It was too late.
Okay.
It was too late, and your brand awareness in that country is not the same of the main competitors. So if people search for a keywords and then you are between the most famous brand in the industry, people always do prefer to click and trust the brand. So it's a matter of brand. So before to start with a SEO campaign in a new country, speaking about go-to-marketing, you should work first on your brand, or your brand awareness. You start with SEO, technical stuff, but with Google Ads, social media, strong digital PR for 1 year. You need at least 1 year because
1 year.
yes,
Okay.
Aneta, because even if you reach the goals immediately, but no one know who you are,
Okay.
you don't get click.
So once you want to enter the new market and you start the brand building campaigns in social media and in PPC, do you also already start the foundation in SEO at the same time?
Yeah, you have immediately.
Okay.
Immediately. Don't waste time. Every day is precious. So don't waste time, start immediately, but avoid to demand the results immediately. No way. Before, to get some results, you have to build up your presence in the market.
Okay.
This is crucial.
Where do you think B2B organic search will be in 3 years? How will it change? Will it still be a viable acquisition channel in B2B SaaS?
I think so. In general. And probably will be much more useful for B2B than B2C.
Really?
Because it might be that the B2C, time by time, we are gonna to move to use LLM to search. B2B, first, it's much more a classical approach. And as in our case, our CTO, our help desk manager, before to speak with the salesperson, they need to get information about the company. They always search on Google. So I see a good future for B2B on Google. I'm not afraid.
Awesome. Thank you so much
My
for
pleasure.
sharing a lot of very insightful information from your experience. And if you enjoyed this episode, follow Gaetano on LinkedIn. You can also contact him there and
Do
see
it.
his research. And don't forget to subscribe and comment on our episode. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.